Welcome back to the channel. Today, guys, we're going to go over my engine run stand. I decided to just go ahead and make this video anyway. So the run stand itself was actually given to me from the guy that I purchased motors from. This stand, it just has some casters on it, some square tubing, and basically he just had some bolts going into the front motor mount location and the back of the motor there, usually where you hook up the bell housing and everything. It works. It's rusty. It's not great, but it absolutely works. No problem at all. I would do it a little bit differently if it was me, because I would actually like to utilize the motor mounts. That way I have plenty of room in the back to mount up a starter, but I'll show you what I'm going to do about that. And for reference, it is about 22 inches long, and let's see, about 16 inches tall, and looks like it's all 1-inch square tubing. Yeah, 1-inch square tubing, so not too bad. It came to me for free, so I went ahead and used it. And here's the back side. Now you can see some of this stuff here. This is some angle iron that I had, and I was trying to actually weld in some mounts for the starter to get in there, but man, I just cannot get it with the angles to get it correctly and just the actual position correct. I couldn't get it enough to where I had it engaged, the teeth in the starter to the teeth of the flywheel, flex plate, whatever you want to call it, and coming back and forward. You know, as that starter gear moves backward and forward. So I couldn't get it. I tried multiple different positions. This is like iteration 3. It was a lot of fun welding this, though. I will say it's a little bit thicker. So if you guys are ever trying to learn how to weld, get a little bit thicker stuff, because I really got to learn the pattern with the welder to actually go through and really feel more confident and be able to tell versus just welding all the thin stuff. That's where all that clean stuff that you have, that's where I made a couple different brackets and I had to grind it all down and retry. Next up, what I did was I put a regular factory Ford starter solenoid right here with some self-tapping screws. I just did that just so I could practice, you know, having everything right here. If I ever want to test out anything, I can practice exactly like how it's going to be on the car. And quite frankly, it seemed to be the easiest way to get this motor hopefully started here soon. So that's just self-tapped in there. I turned it away, that way it doesn't protrude too bad if I had to carry this or anything. And it is about you know, 6 to 8 inches, I'd say, away from these shorty headers, which also came with the motors when I bought them. So heat shouldn't be an issue either right there. And I liked it on this side of the motor, that way I can keep it away from the lower radiator hose, so I don't have to worry, hopefully I don't have to worry about any liquids or anything, because the lower radiator hose is on the driver's side. And then I can run all my wires and everything up to the right hand side. The wiring, we actually went pretty simple here, guys. We ran the positive battery cable to the positive side of the starter solenoid. As you can see here, we have a couple things going to the switch power, a couple going to the ignition, and then just the regular starter cable going from the starter cable terminal there. And that's it for wiring on this end. I'm going to go over here and use my cheat sheet so I can actually tell you guys which went to the positive side, the switch side, and the ignition side, and the coils. So for our switch right here, we just have a 2-pole toggle switch. We have one going to the positive side, one pole going to the positive side of the battery terminal, which is this green one. And then we have 2 wires coming off the other pole. One of them is going to the ignition side of the starter solenoid and the positive side of the coil. And those wires are loomed up and ran. Unfortunately, I had some extras, and I've had to play around with the wiring to get it, so I have some other stuff I need to neaten up in general. Next up, for the engine start button, we have that going to the positive side of the starter solenoid, and then the switch power of the starter solenoid, and that is it. So pretty easy. And you can see once I click this guy on, I can actually hit it, and you should hear the button solenoid kick over. Alright, I'll move you guys down here so you can hear it. And if I had a good starter, it would actually kick over the starter. So now, one thing about this is that the start stop always has power. so it'll always kick over even with the switch off. Got to figure that out. You can hear it. And it'll never start though, because we don't have the coil turned on or anything with this one. So I got something a little funky there. I don't exactly know, but it will work for my application, because whenever I'm not using it, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect my battery. So that's okay for now. Should be good to test everything out. I may need to jump something from maybe the switch to the engine start. I don't know. This engine start button here, it has 3 poles, 3 terminals, and I found out that when I put those 2 poles together and then I grounded the switch, the light would come on. Can't replicate it unless if the 2 terminals that I have currently are, you know, where they're at. So don't quite understand that. And also I had to move those 2 terminals to the top location and the bottom location for it to work. For some reason this one here all the way over to the right, when I had the power coming in or out of this one, nothing would work at all. So then I had to, you know, I had jumpers and I was playing with some wiring, getting it all figured out. So I don't know if this one's supposed to be a ground or not. When I had these terminals both on the same one and then this here grounded, then it worked. So I don't know, because then when I moved this around, it wasn't engaging the starter solenoid. Obviously, if I had those 2 together, it was engaging the starter solenoid the entire time. We didn't want that. So I don't exactly understand that. But guys, I'm not a wiring guru, so I will go ahead and upload the photo that I used that I found online that tend to work pretty well. So that is all for that. For the RPM gauge, guys, I got this off Amazon. It was literally the cheapest one I could find. It is, I believe, a marine gauge, which is like, has an hour meter there in the bottom. Don't really care. I just want something that was easy to read, semi-big. They have different versions. I felt like 6,000 is enough because I'm not really planning on revving this motor or anything on this stand. You know, for safety reasons. I mean, I might do it once or twice, even though I say I'm not going to. But really, the stand is pretty stout. I don't know if it can handle the flex of a motor potentially moving and everything, especially on my uneven floor that we have here in our shed. I just don't know. It's a rubber floor here, guys, so I don't know if that'd be the smartest thing. But it was the cheapest gauge I could find. I got the 6,000 RPM, and it's pretty standard. It's a positive, a ground, a switch source, which I believe was the negative side of the coil, and then it has another wire I don't have hooked up for a light. I was going to actually just wire that into the switch back here, which is this guy. So then if I do have power, in theory that light should come on. I'll have to play with that later. So now I should be able to have power there. And the light's not really coming on. I think it's a setting you have to set somewhere. I'm not entirely sure. So we'll go ahead and turn that back off and we'll play with that later. Not important right now. I did have magnets on this, but because of the gauges, I had magnets on each side, and I thought it'd be nice to be able to stick it somewhere. Obviously, the back side of those gauges stick out too far to be able to really use that efficiently, so I no longer have magnets on it. From there, guys, I just went ahead and I got some wires I need to clean up, obviously up here. But for the rest of it, I basically tried running all my coil stuff through this wiring loom here, which is this one, and then everything going down the starter solenoid through this one. So at least it's really clean. I can actually then move this coil stuff up and out of the way and rest it so it doesn't get stuck on any of the accessory drive belts or anything like that. And then this green wire here, this is my jumper that I made to practice because I didn't quite have everything figured out yet. That one will get probably just wrapped up, or I might just leave that one as is because that one will have to be obviously connected every single time. So that is it for the wiring. For the stand itself, guys, I mean, it's pretty simple. Just some, like I said, some 1-inch square tubing. It came to me with that, and it just has some simple bolts going into the front motor mount location. If I were to build this, I think I would add another 1-inch square tubing right here, which I might, and then add another bolt right here. That way, or I might even add then flat stock going across, so you could be used for a lot of different applications. And that way you could throw on a bell housing for the starter. I don't know if I mentioned this yet, but I can't put a starter on it. So I bought this bracket actually off of Summit, and basically it'll sit on the back of the motor with this alignment tab. I believe it sits basically like that. So I'm gonna have to move it, you know, away from this guy. So I don't know how I'm gonna do that yet. Probably gonna have to cut this off, move it up to the motor mount location. So I might have to modify it. I might even be able to go on the other side. If I sandwich this, looks like it should go there. The starter might be able to fit in there. I don't know, guys. I'm gonna have to play with it. But this was 40 bucks off Summit, and you know, it's pretty thick stuff, and it should work out. Just a little bit of modification, I'd imagine, but better than all my attempts. Let's see. Other than that, I think that is everything over the engine run stand. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'll try and give you my best answers. When it comes to the wiring, guys, I will upload, like I said, a photo of what I used. I am not a wiring guy. I don't claim to be. I really didn't go into too much detail, just a quick overview, and that's because, guys, for some reason, wiring is just one of those things that I just don't get. I feel like I understand it in my head. I draw out stuff, and then when I get to the car or anything like that, it just doesn't work, and I don't know why. That just is just how it is. So I don't really like giving advice on wiring in general, but for this one, I think that given that photo, you guys would be probably helpful, and you can follow it at your own risk. So, but with that, guys, we are going to wrap this video up here. Appreciate all the support. I have been sporadic with uploads, but you know, working on the car costs money, so budget wise I can't keep buying parts for a car that is non-running. So trying to save up budget wise to keep, you know, funding this hobby a little bit, but you know, vacations and other house projects and things like that, it just sometimes takes a back seat. So I try to upload about once a week, but we've kind of fallen off that schedule. And honestly, you guys don't know, but I'm obviously a few videos ahead. I try to put out one a week. When the motor went and I had it at a shop, I mean, that really was kind of hard. I put a lot of work and effort into it just to get told, hey, your motor and transmission are both shot. So that was something that was not fun, trying to figure out which route I was going to go, and ultimately we ended up going this route. So thanks, guys. All that being said, please leave any helpful comments, tips, trick comments below that you have to help anybody else along their Mustang restoration journey, and we'll see you in the next one. All right, next day here, guys, a quick update. Found out I took out the starter out of my car, and I found out that, guys, you know, I'm still kind of having the same issues in regards to it not starting and getting some of the switches and everything figured out. Turns out that the starter is actually grounded with the bolts that it holds to the flywheel. So now, turn that on, hit the button, you'll see it'll jump the spark. And for purposes of testing purposes, that's okay. At least we know it works. A little sketchy, and now if I turn the switch off and I hit it, see, we get nothing. So everything is nice and wired up. We're gonna go ahead and disconnect the battery and try to get the bracket on to hold the starter right in that area. Sorry about that camera angle. So I'm gonna have to take this guy out, and I'm hoping that with 3 points of contacts that I can kind of slide this guy out, maybe bend, you know, maybe bend this one this way. I'm not entirely sure. Actually, I'm gonna have to end up cutting this off. This is just not gonna work. So I bought some more square tubing, so I'll end up put some more. Oh. All right, let me just go ahead and disconnect everything. All right. So guys, I'm gonna end up putting some square tubing. I just grabbed some 1-inch square tubing from Lowe's. Man, buying it from there is very expensive, but you know, it's just one of those things that had to be done. So what we're gonna do is take some square tubing. I'm gonna grind this down, obviously, and get it into the rear motor mount right here, and just a bolt up. So it should be pretty simple. Nothing too crazy. So I just gotta measure, cut this guy, and then I have some 16 gauge steel I can put on top to put a bolt on. I'm just gonna go ahead and knock that out off camera because it shouldn't take too long, and get after it. And then once I get it supported there, I will go ahead and grind off that rear support right here. I'll go ahead and grind that off. That way then I can mount the mounting bracket and the starter itself, and then hopefully turn the motor over and see what happens. I'm not opposed to maybe putting another piece of square tube somewhere. It would be nice to put the square tube kind of up here, then I can anchor it. But I'd also like to be able to maybe put the bell housing on it. So yeah, I guess we'll just have it right there. I may try and do two, but I'm really antsy to start this thing. So we're just gonna go ahead and get to work, and I'll update you guys here in a little bit.